Everybody, Tim Anderson here, aka Renfell, and welcome to the next video in my Wheel of Time review series where I'm going to be talking about the Amazon show, what Chris and I think about the Amazon show, her being an individual who has never read the books and knows nothing about it, me being an absolute fan of the books, even though I am not a book purist. I have read the series through all the way twice, and would happily do it a third time, and may do so when I have some spare time, if that actually happens in 2022. But in the meantime, if you haven't checked out the first video I did on this show, I did the first three episodes all in one go. I originally thought that I might do individual reviews for each episode, but I think because I didn't do one for four, and I just watched four and five. We watched them a week apart. This is just going to be episode four and five for the Amazon show. So, fair warning here: this is not a spoiler-free discussion of the show. This is a episode for those of you who have watched the show and want to talk about things, want to know more, so on and so forth. So if you don't want things to be spoiled, fair warning, you're going to be getting things spoiled in this video, so make sure you don't watch if that's the case. If you are new here, do me a favor. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon if you like what you see here today, so you get all the updates on the future content that I do on this channel, whether it's Wheel of Time reviews, book reviews, EverQuest 1, EverQuest 2, Lord of the Rings Online, Star Wars, cooking videos, book reviews, and all the other things I do. Subscribe, follow along. If you want to join our Discord, links are down below. And of course, don't forget to like the video. Helps out with the algorithm and lets me know that I'm actually doing a good job as opposed to doing a crappy job. And comments, those are great. All right, so let's talk episode 4 um, first. And I feel like this show has gotten progressively better for me, and I think that some of this is just the fact that I'm getting more comfortable with the adaptation as it goes along. I know that Chris has been extremely enthralled by the show, but she's not tainted by having knowledge of the book like I am. Um, Episode 4 in particular, I felt was a nice bridge. There was some interesting stuff that happens, and here's what I have to think about episode 4 as a whole. Knowing the part that Logain plays long term in the overall series, as long as they stay true to that, I like the fact that episode 4 was a Logain centric episode because it demonstrates a few things. First, how powerful he is with Satan, with the one power. Two, it shows that the madness is tickling at his brain, but it hasn't overcome him. And that's something that the Aes Sedai are mistakenly assuming about him. Like, they all assume that the madness has already taken him. But as we see in the scene with the king of what is it, Galdan in the beginning, it's there. Like, he's having avatars of good and evil, like, you know, challenging his sanity, and trying to push him to do crazy things. But so far, he's been able to push that back and retain control. And he really does think, like, he really does believe that he's the Dragon Reborn. And he's like, my intention is not to break the world. My intention is to, renew it and make it, better. And so we see that core of goodness within Logain, and we see the fact that he is a very powerful channeler, and it takes multiple women to keep him under. This is important for later on, if they're going to show this scene later on, because later on, as you recall, when Rand is captured by the Reds, and I mean, it took, wasn't it a full circle of 13? I want to, when they kept him in the box, like, I want to say it was a full circle that had to keep Rand controlled because he was so powerful. So I think it's very important that they set this up with Logain very early on in the show, because if we ever do get to that point and they are going to show that, um, that's going to be very important for later on. They also showed a premonition of that in the sense that in episode 4, when Logain breaks out, um, and all the Aes Sedai run in, and I didn't count how many were there, but um, uh, why am I blanking on her name? The red sister, shouts out, "Link with me," and all the sisters join together and give her their power, and that's how she's able to stop um, Logain and literally rip the source out of him and gentle him. And I thought it was cool the way they showed that scene where they're ripping Satan out of him, and you see like this oil. And this is the one thing I wish they would have explained better, because they haven't really given us an explanation of the difference between Satan and Satyr. So we haven't been given the explanation of the power that the women wield versus the power that the men wield. We're just being told the men are corrupted. The Dark One's touch has corrupted men. So anytime we see the women wielding the one power, it's white, right? Like white wisps of stuff. And then anytime we see the men using it, it's black, like oil or tar. Um, and I wish there would be some better explanation of that. But again, I understand why they haven't necessarily dove into that yet. Maybe they will later on. But visually, it does sort of distinguish between, oh, the women are wielding pure power that's not tainted, and the men are wielding this corrupted thing. And when she pulls it out of Logain, um, and we see like this oily substance get sucked out of him, it's like, oh shit, that's nasty. Like he's 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 getting something pulled out of him. So that was very interesting. I understand why they did this for episode 4, what I'm about to talk about, but this is something that is very different from my recollections of the book, and it's been a few years since I've read them. But we have Nynaeve basically having this explosion of healing, uncontrolled, that heals everybody in the cavern at once, and that's like unheard of. And it now has singled her out as this, oh, you're gonna be a novice, like you are gonna be one of the most powerful Aes Sedai. Your healing powers are, you know, unheard of. Like that's just crazy. Um, Obviously, in the books, we have a lot more time for her role as like the most powerful healer in ages. She really comes into that over a growth period in the books. But in the show, we're very much, remember, we're accelerating everyone's timelines in this show because we don't have all the space that we had in the books. So they're showing a few things. Like we already saw, I believe it was in episode 4 too. She's Nynaeve is sitting around the campfire with the warders, and they're all the warders are teasing Lan because she tracked him. Nynaeve tracked him through the woods, and that was something that I thought was very cool because it shows that she is a very capable woman, and that is something from the books where she was able to track him, and that's one of the things that made him sort of eventually fall for her, is that she is independently capable of doing these amazing things, and that is like, to him, is like the ultimate attraction. So they're doing a good job of sort of accelerating her arc of being who she is. Also, um, this is season 5 stuff, or episode 5 stuff. We're starting to see her pull her braid when she's stressed, um, and I caught note of that a couple of times. They don't blatantly pull it out, they don't blatantly talk about it, but it's there if you notice it, which I thought was a nice kind of wink and a nod to the book fans. So episode 4 was all about Logain and show and Nynaeve, you know, basically bursting out. Obviously, there was some Egwene and Perrin stuff and some Rand and Mat stuff. Um, Actually, hold on, there was a pretty big moment in episode 4 with the Rand and Mat stuff where, because the knife is starting to corrupt Mat pretty heavily, and the farmhouse scene, when they go in, when Tom and Rand go into the the uh, the farmhouse, and they see the little girl dead on the floor, and Matt's over her body with the dagger in his hand, and then he's like, "I see you," and they look up, and there's the fade. And so as the episode ends, we're left with this, and Tom stays behind and defends against the fade, and Rand and Matt run off into the night. We're left with this lingering thought of, did Matt kill that little girl and the family in the house, or was it the Fade who killed them? I felt like that's a very interesting way of showcasing that that dagger is doing something to him. So they've done a I feel like they've done a good job in that regards. Now, getting into episode 5, where obviously um, there's a time leap in episode 5 where it says a month later, and so now suddenly we're a month forward, and everybody, it's all about Tar Valon. Everything is about the White City in episode 5. Everyone's getting there on their own, at their own pace. We've got Egwene and Perrin with the Tinkers. They're arriving. We've got Nynaeve arriving with Loghain and the Aes Sedai, and we've got Rand and Mat arriving on their own after having traveled for a month across land and not knowing what happened to Tom, whether he survived or not. So all roads lead to the White City, and we get there in this episode. And I want to say that visually, I think this is one of the coolest episodes that I've seen. They put a lot of love into Tar Valon, and it paid off in spades in my mind. Again, we're dealing with accelerated timelines here, so there's a lot of the stuff. The thing that I couldn't, I felt so bad because I shouldn't have done it, but I took Chris out of the show by making a comment that I totally shouldn't have made. Um, when Mat and Rand are on their way, and they see Dragonmount in the distance, and Rand has this moment of going, why does this feel so familiar? I feel like I've seen this before. And he steps off the path to look out over the mountain, and all of Tar Valon spread out before them. And I was like, there was like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where he's like, ah, 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 ah. And I was like, that's because he was born on that mountain, and that's where the Dragon Reborn was died before, and that's where he was born, and the prophecy which they haven't talked about in the show. And I kind of went off on this like nerd thing, and I totally spoiled some stuff, but it is what it is. I really am still stuck on a little bit, as much as I'm not a book purist. Like, there's so much about Tam and Rand's birth on the side of the mountain, and his mother being an ale, and all this stuff that they're gonna have to tell us these things at some point, because even Moraine in like the first episode has mentioned the prophecy, right? But they haven't actually mentioned the prophecy. Like, they've mentioned a prophecy, but they haven't talked about the prophecy, and they haven't talked about, being born on Dragon Mount. She just says the prophecy 20 years ago, blah 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 blah. Anyway, so there's some stuff that's just kind of being thrown out there as like a nod. I feel like that's just like a nod to the book readers, because everyone who's watching that was like me, just going, "Ah, ah, 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 ah," like that's what that means, because not only did he die there, he was born there. Like, Dragon Reborn, fucking signals everywhere. Um, so that was cool. Um, I was a little shocked about, um, when the Ogier showed up. Why am I blanking his name? Logile? I always forget his name off the top of my head. They didn't make him as big as I remember him being in the books. Like, he's big, but he's not like towering over Rand. And you could see the actor's got like some sort of platforms in his shoes. Obviously, I feel like they've done a good job with the facial prosthetics, but the size feels off to me. But I that's kind of okay, maybe, in a sense that you got to understand that that's just probably a budgetary constraint. Like, there's no way they can realistically deal with making this guy so much bigger than everybody else, because that's just a special effects nightmare, and they're dealing with prosthetics and physical effects. So I'm willing to let it slide. I mean, it's the character they got, the actor they got did a very good job of like pulling lines from the book. Why you humans are always so hasty. Like, okay, we're Treebeard, much, but still well done. Visually, I like the way Tar Valon looks. Tar Valon. I'm gonna pronounce it different ways throughout the show, but bear with me. Um, the episode ends with a tearjerker. Like, I was weeping at the end of it, and Chris was laughing because she always giggles when I get emotional on shows, but it has a tearjerker of an ending. Um, but there was something in particular that I want to talk about that I think I understand now why they did. So this is again going back to episode one, and everybody complained it was a book fanatic. Why did they give Perrin a wife and have her be killed in the first episode in that way? It pays off in this episode, and I previously said during my review of the first two episodes that I was hoping, and I hadn't seen it pay off in the first three episodes, and I was just sort of taking Sanderson's word for it that it was going to pay off eventually. We get to episode 5, it paid off because the Tinkers get attacked by the White Cloaks, and this is somewhat in the book, but they've obviously taken some liberties here. Perrin and Egwene get captured by the Inquisitor, um, or the Questioner, I think is what they're called in this series, and they're being interrogated. And as Perrin is being tortured, we start to see his eyes go yellow, and we hear the wolves. Um, I knew it was coming. Chris had no idea. Um, But the reason that it paid off is because in this scene, the White Cloak gives Egwene a choice and says, "You can either channel and prove to me that you are a witch, in which case I will let you live, um, and or no, I will kill him and let you live." He gives her a choice. It's like channel and he'll live and I'll kill you. That's what it is. Channel, I'll let him go and I'll kill you because you're a witch, or don't channel and I'll kill him and let you go. And so she has this horrible choice, and Perrin wants to sacrifice himself. And in this moment is when it comes up that he reveals to Egwene, I killed my wife. I'm a horrible person. I'm suffering immensely because of what I did and what I did with the axe and all this other stuff. And all of this torture is coming out. And in that scene where he's willing to sacrifice himself so that she can get away because of the guilt he feels from what happened in episode 1, even though I still don't agree with the decision that they made to have this as his character arc, it makes sense from a story perspective, because now that makes sense in episode 5. His burden that he's been carrying absolutely does make sense. And of course when he, goes full wolf and the White Cloak is like, "What the hell, what in the light are you?" And it was just like, I was like, yeah, that's the parrot we've been waiting to see. Like, now we just need him to get his axe back and, go full Wolfman. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. I still feel like the culmination of the first season has to be the revelation that Rand is the Dragon Reborn. Like, that has to be, because we're already at end of episode 5. We haven't seen Rand even once do anything spectacular. We've seen Perrin, we've seen Egwene, we've seen her channel, we've seen Nynaeve channel, we've seen Perrin with the wolf things, and we've got Mat with the dagger, which is making Rand suspect that Mat can channel. But so far, Rand is like this little special snowflake that nothing has happened to, but yet he's still having dreams, right? So I feel like the only logical conclusion for them would be to end this first season with the revelation that Rand can channel and maybe understanding that he is the Dragon Reborn. Maybe they don't make the Dragon Reborn connection until the second or third season, but they've got to have him channeling sometime in season 1, because so far we're 5 episodes in, he's the only character from the Two Rivers that hasn't done something spectacular yet. So I feel like we're getting to the last arc of the season because we've got 6, 7, and 8 left. The first 3 being a major arc, and we've got these, 2 in the middle. So I feel like we're getting to the point where that's going to have to be something that takes place very soon. So again, overall, I'm enjoying the show. Episodes 4 and 5. 4 was good. I think 5 was better. There are things in each episode that I enjoyed, but I think that we're progressing nicely. Obviously, a little too fast for my taste, but it is what it is. And I think that this is a show that if they could do a good job with season 2, it could go places. I mean, the showrunner says he wants to do 8 seasons. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's quite the spectacular it needs to be to get 8 seasons, but it has been an entertaining ride so far, and I'm interested to see where it continues to go. Obviously, as a fan of the books, I treat this like Star Wars or anything else, where it's a franchise that I will enjoy no matter what comes out in the franchise, even if I don't agree with all the decisions that are being made for creative purposes. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Go ahead and like this video if you did like it. And of course, if you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you get updates for all the future content that I do here on YouTube, whether it's about the Wheel of Time, books that I read like science fiction or other things, or all the video game content that I produce here on YouTube. And don't forget, you can also join our Discord. Links are below. And if you want to go whole hog, you can head over to patreon.com/wandering hermits and support what my brother, myself, and my wife are working on with our project over there, which is the point and click adventure game, the 5th edition tabletop setting, and the book series. Until next time, stay safe, everybody. Have fun watching or reading, and I will see everybody in the next episode.